There's something most women never really talk about, not even with their closest friends. It's that quiet moment after everything is over. When the lights are dim, the room falls silent, and you're lying there thinking, did he truly see me? Not just my body, but me. And the strange thing is, it's not about how passionate he was, not about how long it lasted, not even whether he reached the peak. It's about something deeper. A single moment, a subtle gesture, a pause that speaks louder than words about the man lying next to you. What no one tells you is this: the way a man treats you in bed says more about who he is outside of it than any text, call, or promise ever could. It reveals the blueprint of his emotional world, his confidence, his sensitivity, his scars, and most importantly, how safe you will ever feel in his presence. But the truth is, most women are not taught to recognize it. We are taught to be flattered by attention, to mistake desire for depth. But there is a big difference between being wanted and being cherished. And the man who cherishes you, you can spot him not by what he says, but by what he does when the noise fades and everything gets still. He is the man who doesn't rush. Not because he is uncertain, but because he is certain enough to take his time. He doesn't touch you to perform. He touches to understand. He doesn't hunger for your body like a trophy. He listens to it like a language. And when he moves, he doesn't take control like it's a prize to win. He invites surrender like it's a gift to share. And in that surrender, something unexpected happens. You stop performing. You breathe differently. Your shoulders relax. Time stretches, and suddenly you feel a kind of presence so rare it almost feels unfamiliar. It stops being about pleasure alone. It becomes about being seen. That moment, if you've ever felt it, changes you because for the first time, you understand what it's like to be touched without being reduced, to be desired without being turned into an object. And what makes it even more powerful is this: he isn't doing it to impress you. He isn't searching for compliments. He isn't rushing for approval. He gives because it's who he is. Even when nobody sees, even when you don't say thank you, even when you're quiet, hesitant, unsure, that's when you know you are not being performed for. You are being held, not just physically, but emotionally, spiritually. And I'll be honest, I used to miss these signs. I used to believe connection meant chemistry. That if the sparks were wild and the kisses intense, it had to be real. But now I'm not so sure, because sometimes the loudest sparks hide the deepest insecurities. The fastest hands belong to the most fragile egos, and the men who rush to dominate the moment are often the most terrified of being truly seen. But the man who slows down, who listens without needing words, who pauses when your breath catches, who notices when your body whispers, wait, even if your voice doesn't. That man isn't guessing. He's present. He is the rare one who can read your silence better than others read your smile. He doesn't ask, "Did you finish?" He asks, without words, "Did you feel safe?" He asks it in the way he holds you afterward, in the way he notices the shift in your breathing, in the way he never makes you feel like your body is some test he needs to pass. That kind of presence, it's magnetic, and once you feel it, once you know what it's like to be deeply attuned to, going back to anything less feels like emotional starvation. Even science agrees. Studies show that when a woman feels emotionally safe in intimacy, her nervous system calms, and her brain releases higher levels of oxytocin, the bonding hormone. Translation: trust makes desire grow, and the men who know this, they don't just make love, they create gravity. The kind that pulls you in without pressure. The kind that lingers long after the lights are off. The kind that makes you whisper his name in the silence, not because he demanded it, but because you felt it. And maybe the most beautiful part is this: he doesn't need to tell you who he is. You feel it in the way your body relaxes naturally, in the way your mind stops spinning, in the way, for the first time in forever, you feel chosen without having to chase. But here's the truth most women miss. We're not taught to look for this. We're taught to chase sparks, not sanctuary. To be impressed, not protected. To be wanted, not truly seen. And if you've ever wondered why some lovers stay in your memory long after they're gone, maybe this is the reason. They didn't just touch your skin. They touched your stillness. And in a world that rushes through everything, stillness becomes unforgettable. And what if I told you there's a way to know if you're with a man who truly sees you or just wants to consume you? It happens in a moment so soft, so quiet, you almost miss it. It's when he touches you without agenda, not to spark a reaction, not to reach a goal, not to win approval, but simply to be there, to meet you where you are, to witness the way your body responds when there is no pressure, no expectation, no timeline. That moment tells you everything, and your body knows. Long before your mind catches on, before the words even form, your nervous system has already decided safe or not safe. And the men who understand this, they don't chase validation, they create sanctuary. Their hands don't just touch, they listen. And their presence lingers long after the moment ends. Let me ask you something real. Have you ever been with someone who made you feel like every side of you was welcome? Your fire, your fear, your hesitations, your contradictions. Not someone who tried to fix you, impress you, or control your feelings, but someone who stayed calm through it all. If you have, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And if you haven't, let me tell you something. Men like this don't just appear by chance. You notice them in the smallest details, in the way they breathe with you, in how they slow down when you start to rush, in how they respond not just to your words, but to your energy. Because the real ones, they don't just see your body, they read your rhythm. They don't just react to what you say, they feel what you can't even express. It's subtle but powerful. You feel it when he notices your shoulders tense, even though you're smiling. When he pauses because your breath changed, even when you're nodding yes. He doesn't ask, "Are you okay?" like it's a checklist. He simply knows whether you are. And that doesn't just make him a better lover. It makes him a safer one. The kind your soul recognizes before your mind even approves. Because here's the truth. A woman's desire starts with trust. Not trust in his promises. Trust in his responses. How he reacts when your body hesitates. When your voice quiets. When your eyes shift. Most men miss these cues. They're too busy performing, too focused on the outcome. But the ones who don't miss them, the ones who read the shallow breath, the sudden stillness, the slight retreat, those men become unforgettable. Not because of what they did, but because of how they made you feel in the moments between the doing. Even science has a word for this: co-regulation. It's the silent dance between two nervous systems, constantly sending signals of safety or stress. And the man who is truly present, not just physically but emotionally, is co-regulating you every second. He's saying, "I've got you," not through big speeches, but through something deeper, attunement. And here's the secret. This isn't about skill. It's about safety. The kind that isn't loud, doesn't need applause, and never makes you second guess your worth. That's why this kind of intimacy is so rare, because it requires a man grounded enough in himself that he doesn't need to conquer you. A man who sees depth as power, not threat. A man who knows the strongest thing he can do is stay. And when you feel this, when you finally experience it, everything else feels small. The sad part is, most women don't realize they deserve this until after they've accepted much less. We've been taught to confuse chaos with chemistry, fast hands with passion, control with confidence. But real confidence, it's quiet, it doesn't push, it doesn't rush, it doesn't demand, it waits, it listens, it adapts, it feels. That's why when you meet a man like this, he feels different. Not just in the moment, but in your whole body. Like a calm wave, like an anchor in the storm. Because when a man makes you feel safe, something inside you softens. Not because you're weak, but because you no longer have to stay guarded. You let go, not out of obligation, out of choice. And that's where real surrender begins. Not just physical surrender, emotional surrender, spiritual surrender, the kind where your heart whispers, "I can rest here." But not every man can hold that space. And you know he can, not when things are wild and passionate, but when things go quiet. When you hesitate, when you pull back slightly, and he notices. He doesn't demand answers. He doesn't get defensive. He doesn't push you to open before you're ready. He just stays, grounded, aware, patient, and in that space your body speaks a language older than words, a language of trust, of safety, of home, because that's what safety feels like. It feels like you can just exist without performing, without shrinking, without editing any part of yourself. That's when you know you're not being tolerated. You're being honored. And that's what changes everything. Because when a man gives you both desire and peace, something inside you finally exhales. You stop bracing for impact. You stop waiting for the sudden silence, the disappearing act, the cold distance that used to come after moments of closeness. Instead, you start to relax into the warmth, into the steadiness, into the knowing that this connection won't turn into a battlefield overnight. That feeling right there, that calm after the storm that never comes. That is when you realize this love is different. And you know what's even more powerful. It's not loud. It doesn't demand your attention with big gestures or constant declarations. It shows up in the small, consistent things. Like the way he listens when you talk about the things no one else seems to care about. Or the way he remembers the little details you didn't even realize you shared. Or the way he notices when your smile doesn't quite reach your eyes and asks what's wrong. Not because he wants to fix you, but because he actually wants to know. This kind of presence doesn't try to impress you. It doesn't need to perform. It simply holds space for you to exist as you are. Messy, complicated, emotional, brilliant, stubborn, soft, and it never punishes you for being human. That's why it feels so different. Because so many of us have been trained to believe we have to earn love, that we have to twist ourselves into smaller versions of who we are just to be chosen. But the right man doesn't want the smaller version. He wants the whole thing. And here's the thing, once you've experienced that kind of love, you can't go back. You can't unknow it. You can't pretend you're okay with half effort, with cold words, with someone who disappears the second things get hard, because you've felt the kind of love that stays. And staying changes you. It heals places you didn't even know were bleeding. When someone brings you that kind of emotional safety, you start to breathe differently. You start to sleep better at night. You start to laugh more freely. You stop walking on eggshells. Because deep down, you know you won't be punished for feeling too much or for needing something real. And that safety doesn't make the relationship boring, it makes it deeper. Because now, instead of wasting energy worrying about whether they'll leave, you can finally put that energy into growing together. That's why peace is so much more powerful than chaos. Chaos burns fast and bright, but it leaves you in ashes. Peace builds slowly, but it lasts. It gives you roots. It gives you a home inside someone else's heart without losing yourself in the process. And isn't that what love should be? Not a storm that destroys you, but a shelter that holds you while the world outside rages on. And the most surprising thing, the right man won't see your emotions as too much. He won't call you dramatic for crying or cold for needing space. He will simply see you as human, and he will keep showing up. Not because he's perfect, but because he understands that real intimacy isn't about avoiding the hard moments. It's about walking through them together. Slowly, you start to notice how different it feels. How your body doesn't tense when you hear his name. How your heart doesn't sink when the phone buzzes because you're not scared of what the message might say. How you stop rehearsing conversations in your head because you're no longer afraid of saying the wrong thing. That's what safety does. It unravels all the ways you've learned to protect yourself. And when the walls start to come down, that's when love really begins. Because love can't grow where fear lives. It needs openness. It needs trust. It needs the freedom to be messy and imperfect and real. And the right man gives you that freedom. He doesn't just want the pretty parts of you. He wants the whole story. Every chapter, every scar, every dream, every fear. Over time, you realize this is what intimacy truly is. Not just the moments when your bodies are close, but the moments when your souls feel seen. When your laughter is unfiltered. When your pain is met with patience instead of judgment. When you feel like you can finally stop auditioning for love and just be loved as you are. And once you've felt that, you stop chasing the highs and lows of the kind of love that leaves you anxious and unsure. You start craving the calm, the steady, the unshakable presence of someone who chooses you every single day. Because passion might make your heart race, but peace makes it stay. Because when peace becomes the center of love, everything else changes. You no longer crave the drama that once felt exciting, but always left you empty. You no longer mistake mixed signals for passion. You no longer hold on to someone hoping they will one day see your worth. Because the moment you experience love that doesn't leave you guessing, that doesn't make you feel like you're walking through fire just to feel wanted, you realize you deserve so much better than the chaos you once accepted. And the truth is, the right man doesn't have to be perfect. He will make mistakes. He will have bad days. He will sometimes say the wrong thing or not understand you completely. But here's the difference. He will care enough to try again. He won't shut down. He won't disappear when things get hard. He will stay in the room when the conversation is uncomfortable, because he values the connection more than his pride. That's the kind of man who brings peace into your life. Not because he avoids the storms, but because he's willing to walk through them with you, instead of leaving you to face them alone. And when you have someone like that by your side, it changes how you see yourself. You start to believe you are worthy of steady love, of someone who doesn't make you feel like you have to fight for every ounce of attention or affection. You stop shrinking yourself to fit into someone else's comfort zone because now you know real love will never ask you to become less. It will only help you become more yourself, more free, more alive. This is why emotional safety is so powerful. It allows you to show up without the masks you've been wearing for years. It gives you the courage to speak your truth without fearing it will be used against you. It lets you be soft without feeling weak. And when you have that, when you have someone who makes it safe to be exactly who you are, love starts to feel less like a performance and more like home. And home, that's what real love feels like. It doesn't feel like you're constantly chasing someone who keeps running. It doesn't feel like you're begging for crumbs of affection. It feels like a place where your heart can finally rest. A place where you are not too much or not enough. You are simply you, and that is more than okay. But so many people never experience this because they get stuck in cycles of chaos. They think the highs and lows mean the connection is real because it feels intense. But intensity is not intimacy. Intensity burns you out. Intimacy builds you up. It's quiet, steady, and deep. It doesn't just make you feel wanted, it makes you feel safe to stay. And here's what most people miss: love isn't proven by how loudly someone declares it when things are good. It's shown by how they treat you when things are hard. Do they shut you out? Do they blame you for feeling hurt? Do they disappear until you calm down? Or do they sit with you in the discomfort, even when it's messy, even when it's hard to talk about? That's where you see the truth, because love that lasts is not built on constant excitement. It's built on trust, on consistency, on the simple but rare ability to show up over and over again. And the man who does that, the man who stays through your storms, through your silence, through your softness and your strength, that man gives you something far more powerful than butterflies. He gives you peace of mind. And once you've felt that, you can't go back to the love that leaves you doubting yourself every other day. You stop tolerating people who make you feel like you have to earn their affection. You stop settling for someone whose words sound sweet, but whose actions leave you empty. Because now you know love isn't about what someone says in the heat of the moment. It's about what they do when the feelings fade, when life gets heavy, when you're not at your best. The right man doesn't just love the easy parts of you. He loves the complicated parts, the moody parts, the scared parts. He doesn't run when things aren't perfect. He doesn't punish you for being human. He stays because to him, love isn't about perfection. It's about presence. And presence is everything. It's what makes you feel seen after years of feeling invisible. It's what makes you feel calm after years of living in emotional chaos. It's what teaches you that love isn't supposed to feel like war. It's supposed to feel like peace after the battle you didn't even realize you were fighting. The more you experience this, the more you realize you don't have to fear losing it, because real love doesn't hold you hostage with the threat of leaving. It stays because it wants to, not because it has to. It stays through the hard conversations, the quiet nights, the moments when life doesn't feel exciting or romantic. It stays because love isn't proven in grand gestures. It's proven in the everyday choice to keep showing up. And that's what gives you freedom. The freedom to be yourself fully. The freedom to dream bigger, love deeper, speak louder, cry harder. Because you know you're not going to be abandoned for being human. And when you have that, when you have someone who makes you feel that safe, you finally understand love the way it was meant to be. Because when love gives you that kind of safety, it changes everything about how you move through life. You start walking differently. You start carrying yourself with more confidence. You stop second, guessing every word you say, every message you send, every feeling you have. You stop living in fear of being too much or too little. Because deep down, you finally know this person isn't keeping score. They're not waiting for you to mess up so they can hold it over your head. They're not looking for reasons to leave. They're looking for reasons to stay. And when someone stays, really stays, it teaches you a different kind of love than the one most of us grew up believing in. It's not the kind that comes crashing into your life like a wave and leaves you gasping for air. It's the kind that grows roots so deep you know it's not going anywhere when the wind blows. That's the love that doesn't just excite you, it heals you. And you realize something important: healing love isn't boring. People think that because it doesn't come with constant drama, it must not be real. But that's not true at all. In fact, it's the lack of chaos that allows real passion to grow. Because when you're not busy fighting battles, you have the space to laugh more, to dream more, to build more. Peace doesn't kill the spark. It protects it. It gives it oxygen so it doesn't burn out in the first storm that comes along. The right man understands this. He knows love isn't about proving himself in big, flashy ways and then disappearing when things get hard. He knows it's about the small, consistent moments that tell you he's here. He's not going anywhere. He's not running when things get messy. And that consistency builds trust. That trust builds intimacy. And that intimacy builds the kind of love that lasts. You start noticing the little things. Like how he checks on you even when you didn't ask him to. Like how he listens, really listens, when you talk about your day, even if it's nothing dramatic or exciting. Like how he doesn't make you feel needy for wanting closeness or weak for needing support. He doesn't make you feel like loving you is a burden. Instead, he makes it feel like the most natural thing in the world. And slowly, you realize this is what love was always meant to be. It's not supposed to feel like a test you keep failing. It's not supposed to feel like you're fighting to earn someone's time, their attention, their loyalty. Real love doesn't keep you guessing. It doesn't punish you with silence. It doesn't make you feel like you're one mistake away from being abandoned. Instead, it gives you space to be real, to be messy sometimes, to be vulnerable. To admit when you're scared or tired or confused without feeling like you have to apologize for it. And that kind of space, that kind of emotional safety, is what allows two people to truly build a life together. Because here's the truth: relationships aren't destroyed by the big things people think. It's not usually the huge fights or the major life events. It's the small, daily moments of not feeling heard, not feeling valued, not feeling safe to be yourself. Those are the things that break people slowly, quietly, over time. And that's why the man who gives you emotional safety is giving you more than just comfort. He's giving you the foundation for a love that actually lasts. And once you have that, once you know what it feels like to be loved without conditions, without games, without fear, you stop accepting anything less. You stop letting people treat you like you're replaceable. You stop begging for attention from those who only show up when it's convenient for them. Because now you know love isn't supposed to leave you drained. It's supposed to fill you up. The right man doesn't just bring passion. He brings peace. He doesn't just want the beautiful, easy parts of you. He stays for the hard, complicated, imperfect parts too. And that's when you realize love was never about finding someone who excites you for a moment. It was always about finding someone who stands